Before I start off this video, I'd like to make an announcement. I didn't feel like doing a review this week, and I don't feel much like doing a review next week either. And that doesn't mean bombard me with review ideas or requests. In fact, that's one way to have me not review a game. I've been wanting to indulge myself in some other hobbies, so for now, reviews are taking a back seat when it comes to importance, as I've hit burnout on doing those. I don't have much free time, and reviews take up more time than I'd like them to. Secondly, reviews don't perform like they used to, so it shows me that there's less interest in them, especially since the last review, Horizon Zero Dawn, should have performed better since it's one of this year's big AAA releases. But rants will still be a regular thing, as they tend to get more activity than reviews do. And you may see more than one rant a week too, as they are easier to do. No promises though. But from now on, I'm gonna play this channel by ear. Ever since I talked about the free pass that Nintendo gets, where I discussed how people will instantly forgive them for something, or omit it entirely, yet demonize another company for doing the exact same thing, I got a few requests asking me to talk about how Bethesda gets a free pass as well, which is actually trickier than you may think. You see, with Nintendo getting a free pass, it's rather obvious. People give them a do whatever they want and get away with it card, and Bethesda gets a different card. No one gave ZeniMax, the parent company of Bethesda, a free pass when it came to their lawsuit against Facebook and Oculus VR, because they couldn't. Logically, as the jury found that Palmer Luckey did violate the non-disclosure agreement he had with ZeniMax, and that John Carmack did use code he developed for ZeniMax when he was still their employee, and therefore it belonged to ZeniMax. Granted, they only awarded them $500 million instead of the $6 billion they were seeking. You can't hate or give them a free pass. The decision was decided by the court system. But what Bethesda gets a free pass for, and it seems to be with only two things, their game engines and the notorious bugs that litter their games. Also, if you're going to bring up games with their name on it, make sure that they actually develop the game, as they have published a lot more games than they actually made. And that happens a lot more than you think. People will bring up a game that was published by a company to use in a discussion, and then I have to correct them and let them know that the company was only a publisher and that the people who actually made the game was a different studio. First, I want to talk about their game engines. No one ever talks about them. When I played Oblivion when it came out on the 360, it was the second Bethesda game that I ever played, the first being the Home Alone game on the NES. When I was playing Oblivion, there was something off about it that didn't seem right. The characters all had this 1,000-yard stare. There were no facial expressions, and when there were, they were very robotic looking. Talking to characters was a pain in the ass, as the indications as to what were good responses weren't clear, and I didn't play it for that long because I couldn't get into it. But the game felt so dated for 2006, and felt even more dated when games like Uncharted came out the next year. It was like a PC game from the mid-90s that was just given updated graphics for the time. But the game had universal acclaim, getting a 9.5 out of 10 on average. But you know what? It was 2006. The 360 was out for like 5 months at the time, so I don't think people knew what they should have been expecting at the time. But then I remember watching someone play Morrowind on the Xbox. It chose a lizard creature for their character, and I was watching it move across the screen in the third-person perspective, and I remember laughing as its running animation was just its arms and legs flopping about. But I wasn't too into those types of fantasy games. But then Fallout 3 came out, and it took me a while to get it as it was broke at the time. I picked it up from Blockbuster on sale, when that thing was still around. When I started playing it, I was like, this feels dated. Like Oblivion dated, which was even worse because it's been 2 years since Oblivion was released. It was like they gave Oblivion a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland paint job, but it got an average of 9 out of 10. Alright, I guess. I didn't play that far into Fallout 3 because aesthetically the game bothered me, as it felt dated and didn't feel like a 7th generation game. I know hardcore fans of the first two Fallout games probably didn't like the shift in direction, from a top-down isometric styled game with turn-based combat to a first-person to third-person action styled game with RPG elements. But Fallout 3 almost never happened since Interplay went bankrupt and the rights were sold to Bethesda. Then Skyrim came out, and it looked great graphically, and it sported their brand new creation engine, which still felt dated. Not badly dated, but it felt like this is how Oblivion should have felt like. The characters still felt wooden and robotic, but not like the mid-80s Disney animatronics from that era. More like early 2000 Disney animatronics. For 2011, it didn't feel much like an advancement. Again, especially when compared to other games like Uncharted 3, where the characters moved and behaved more realistically. Now, I know that people are going to say that graphics and animation don't make a game good, and whatever. But here's the thing. While that is true, it does help with immersion, and this being a role-playing game where immersion is a key factor, which brings me to Fallout 4, where there's been improvements to the facial animations during dialogue scenes. While it's a major improvement over the past Fallout and Oblivion games, at times the facial expressions look like Chucky's from Child's Play. So while it still looks dated, it's not as bad and I'm able to work with it. But now it's time we get into what Bethesda is known for. Tons of bugs, glitches, and exploits that litter their games. I can understand that having huge open worlds means that there's a lot more to program and would require extensive bug testing. But some things just don't make any sense in how they could have been missed. When I was playing Fallout 3, I went to a doctor in Megaton at night. As he got out of his bed, and as he did, his head twisted downward, went into his chest, and continued to spin around until he stood up. That's some Exorcist shit right there. Or like in Fallout 4, you can get the cryolator in the very beginning by taking dog meat down to the vault and having him search for stuff, bypassing the need for master lockpicking. There was a video of a guy who was playing Fallout 4 and accidentally shot at Preston Gravy. Because Preston is an essential character, he can't be killed, only knocked out. Preston kept chasing him all over the wasteland. The guy could not escape him and couldn't let Preston kill him because he was on a survival run. And if he died, it would result in permanent death, a limitation he imposed on himself. Preston glitched out even more to the point where he wouldn't even become knocked out. Preston couldn't be dismissed as his companion and would spawn right next to him each time he got too far away. He had to wait it out until the glitch corrected itself, which took several in-game days. I've had issues with Dogmeat several times. He's gotten stuck on stairs, chased after non-hostile creatures when searching for Conrad Kellogg. I've seen him sit by while I was getting attacked or stuck on something, and he's gotten in my way several times and wouldn't move. I've shot enemies point blank in the body and didn't do any damage. I'm not sure if that was a glitch, the way I built my character, or just a roll of dice, but I was not in VATS as I know that it only has a 95% chance to hit, which I swear is the opposite for me, as I've had a 95% chance to hit and depending on the weapon and how much AP I have, missed with every single shot. I've even been one-shotted by someone who I never saw. I was just walking along, pretty full on health, and then just dropped dead. I'm starting to think that I need to start putting some more points in luck at this rate. I don't understand this free pass that they get. It's like there's a culture built around Bethesda that celebrates how glitchy or buggy their games are. So what's the tipping point? If we look at games like Sonic 06 and Ride to Hell Retribution, why don't they get the same scores as Bethesda games? They suffer from similar issues, but those two are listed as some of the worst games ever made. From an objective standpoint, if you put those three games together, they are unfinished. They have bugs and glitches that are not only obvious, but stand out under neon signs. Why are they not treated the same when it comes to scores and audience reception? So far, I have had pretty smooth run in Fallout 4, but I've also had smooth runs in Sonic 06 and very rocky ones, and Ride to Hell Retribution was quite bumpy. Maybe someone who does give free passes to Bethesda can give me an answer to that. And don't say, because they're good games. Pretend that you're in school and have to explain your answer, as you will be graded. And yes, you will be graded on your opinion and experiences.